drive the car. And one day I told Rajiv that, just taking the car out with some friends, and my parents were out for dinner. So he said, okay, because maybe I was 15 because he had a license, he was older. The next morning, I think it was a Saturday or something, so I was in bed and I just turned my head and opened my eyes. There was my mom sitting, staring at me. And I knew that she knew. And for a second, I didn't know, was this real or was I in a nightmare? So I just turned my head and went back to sleep. But within 2-3 minutes, I realized that maybe this is real, so let's not make it worse. So I woke up and my mom is not someone who speaks a lot. So what I got was a very focused, stern shouting or whatever you may say. And of course, I think for a few months, I didn't have the guts to take the car out, but I think after that I managed to. So some of these are, I would say, partly humorous, but instances which I'm sharing with you to say that life was just as ordinary as anybody else. Instead, we used to be very much in awe coming into the city. Because, people were fancier, they drove fancier cars. We went to a restaurant maybe once in 6 months, it was a birthday, once in 3-4 months or so. So it was a very simple, straightforward life there. And I think, as I said, that was one of our greatest gifts in that period. Now, I then did my engineering at the Pune Engineering College. And my parents never asked us to choose a particular line. So a lot of people assume that, you come from this background, so you would do your business management, or because this was a motorcycle company, a scooter company at that time, were you asked to do your engineering? And it was nothing of the sort. My father used to just tell us one thing, and he said this is what his father used to tell him. He said, do whatever you like, but try and be the best in what you do. He says, you want to be a pilot, you want to be a musician. He says, I won't come in your way. You have luckily some amount of wealth, you don't have to worry about that. But make sure you give it your best. He says, that is what will make me proud. And that's what I tell my kids today. So it was some very simple messages that came about. And more than anything else, growing up, there weren't any such sermonizing. And maybe I was also not one of those kids that liked being sermonized at. But a lot of it was just conversations. There were dinner table conversations when he used to be in town. And you picked up stuff at different points. You realized later in life sometimes what you had picked up. So it was very much run of the mill. In college, I used to play a lot of basketball in school and in college. And in college, I played for Pune University first at the state games and then at the All India Nationals. And that was a great experience because it was also the time where, as part of my course, I was training at Tata Motors. And I used to play here at Deccan. So it meant coming very early. Of course, by then, luckily, I had a car. I had that TT Ambassador. So it meant coming very early to Deccan, training for a couple of hours, then going to Tata Motors, working the whole day on the shop floor, coming back again in the evening. I used to be here till 8:30 and then going home. And it taught me both how to allocate my time, because I knew I had to do well at my studies as well. And I was very keen to play basketball at some competitive level. When I went also for these games, I went with the team. We went to second class, unreserved. I mean, we were 20 of us with 4 reserved seats or so. We slept on the platform, I remember, in Belgaum when we were changing trains in the night. So we slept overnight on the platform. And we had a room which was maybe twice the size of the stage, and we were 20 of us that stayed there during our tournament. So those were great years, those special years. I don't think I could do that today, very honestly. But there's always a point in time where if you really want something, then you are driven towards it. So these are really some of the experiences growing up.
So you mentioned that there was no tacit understanding or pressure on you that you need to take certain choices, life choices or career choices because there is a business. So then what was your feeling growing up? Was there a sense of excitement that you would kind of like to join the family industry?
There was never any such expectations. Personally, I think probably till I was maybe 12, 13, there wasn't even a realization. Okay, you knew your name was Bajaj, you knew the company was Bajaj Auto, so you knew you had something to do with it. But the ecosystem around me or my rest of my family, whether it was our friends, whether it was teachers, didn't treat us any differently. So there was no reason to believe that you should be different. I remember once we were at the dinner table eating and something happened and my brother was misbehaving. So my mother shouted at him and said, if you behave like this, how will you one day run this company? And my father was sitting on the side, he was reading something, and he immediately stood up and said, none of you should ever assume that you're going to run this company. This company will be run by those that are capable of running it. And I think Rajiv must have been, again, 14, 15, or younger probably, and I was even younger. So to get this message, not when you're 20 or 22, when you can understand that, but as kids, still shows how focused and clear he was. And even today, if you ask him, he keeps saying in his interviews and other things that he keeps saying that I've been kicked upstairs by my sons. But he also says very mischievously, you know, I hold most of the shares. So I decide to sit in that chair. So there was no such expectation. But I was good in maths, I was good in science, and hence I was keen on doing engineering. Instead, I remember my PCM, my physics, chemistry, maths, I did badly in maths, and as a result, my PCM marks were only 92%, and those who got into engineering in the last 10, 15, 20 years, no, unfortunately, 92% is not great. So when I got into College of Engineering, I didn't get into mechanical, I got into metallurgy. And I didn't want to do metallurgy, so I went to my father and said, what do we do? So he said, what can you do? No, can you talk to somebody, you know? And he said, you wrote the paper, not me. So I had to work hard through the first year, and luckily at the end of first year, there were a few students who didn't make it to the next year, and I slipped into one of those seats, on merit obviously. So it was very clearly working with the full family support, but clearly doing what we wanted to do.
And at the same time, it was always made clear that you have to be good enough or perform. So there was nothing assumed that there was nothing as a matter of entitlement. I think that's what's coming across.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's also, see, there wasn't ever an irrational pressure. When exams got over, I remember once after engineering, one of my exams I thought I'd done quite badly, and my father was home that evening. And he asked me, how's your exam? And I said, I think this one's not gone well. And he said, don't worry about it, as long as you've given your best. So it was not that, no, it means you must get 80% or 90% or 60% depending on when. So it was very motivating. And it was also not something that was said every month, that would automatically put pressure. It was once in a while, but that was the only expectation, is to do your best.
And then when you did get into into Bajaj Auto specifically, so you spent about 10 years in leadership position and also in a very hands-on functions, which was exports and finance. So can you tell us a little about that phase when you were very hands-on in Bajaj Auto, and was that a very exciting period for you personally?
I first joined Bajaj Auto in '91 after I finished my engineering, and that was for a year before I went to the UK to do my masters in engineering. That 1 year I worked on the shop floor like any other engineer that had joined Bajaj Auto. And so there was no fancy office, and I didn't even have an office. Just you went to work, you spent the whole day, you came back. After my master's in engineering, I again spent about a year and a half at Bajaj Auto before I went for my MBA. At that time, I led a team of engineers. It was called the Streamline Manufacturing Systems team. And we went about different parts of the company, improving operational efficiencies, finding ways to cut costs, to improve quality. This was a team of engineers that Rajiv had set up with, we used to have this consultant who called Dr. John Wallace from the UK. And he had helped Rajiv set this team up, which just went about burrowing into different areas of the company and finding ways to improve efficiency. So I ran that for about a year and a half, then went and did my MBA. Then my father finally told me, okay, quit stalling, you've been studying too much, come back and start working over here. And that's when I came back in '97. Now, when I was finishing my MBA, everybody does job interviews, and I did one with McKinsey, I did one with a venture capital firm, and this was in '96, in my second year. And I was toying out with the idea to say that once I go back home, I have to always be there. So do I take 2-3 years and do something different here? It's a different experience. You continue staying up in the US. I was married at that time, so we said, great, we get some more time together as a couple. But there was so much happening in India at that time. And I realized that to be there for a year or two would make no difference, because you'd just be running numbers in a consulting organization. You have to be there at least 5 years to make a difference. So I decided I didn't want to spend that kind of time away from India at a time where India was changing dramatically, and I decided to come back. Now, Rajiv is also an engineer, and he was already handling portfolios on the R&D side, on the operation side. So because of both my engineering and my MBA backgrounds, I decided to go on the finance side. And the first thing I did, which took us over 18 months to implement across the company, we had already organized ourselves into manufacturing cells. But costing used to be something which used to be stored in like a little vault with this one South Indian costing guy who was with us for I think 105 years or something. He was a very nice guy. But costs were not supposed to be shared. And to me, that was just completely ridiculous. Costs were not being controlled by the guys sitting in the offices. They were being controlled by the guys on the shop floor. So we started an experiment with one shop first, where we took all the major costs which were controllable at the shop floor, and we created simple graphs for the team in that manufacturing cell to every day put down what was their consumption of those materials. You had tools, you had oil, you had, for example, even power. And one may think power is central, but there are many ways to improve efficiency of power utilization on machines. And gradually, we started seeing very significant results. So, for example, I remember one of our cell members, he was doing a drilling operations. There were 4 drills that were being guided into, I think, a crankcase. And he came back within 2 weeks and he said, I used to break a drill a week. And then I realized that each drill costs 10,000 rupees, which is the same as my monthly salary. So I spent some time looking at the machine and realized that the guide was a little off. So we reset that, and it's been now 3 weeks we've not broken a drill. And these are small examples, but there were hundreds of such examples that came up. And we eventually, over an 18-month period, I think 18 months or even 2 years, implemented what we call cell-level cost manufacturing across our plants. And we had at that time the Pune plant, and we had the Aurangabad plant, and the Chakan plant was just coming up. And even today, that remains as a very strong and simple visual way to control costs on the shop floor. So that was something very interesting to do.